last competition, I did 4 deadlift attempts. 2 of those attempts, I got a 1 red light each, so the lifts were good. But when I asked the judge what the first red light was for, she said it was for soft knees, meaning that I wasn't straightening my legs out all the way. And the second red light was for extension, so I wasn't locking out all the way. Well, now that I'm in my conditioning phase again, I'm done competing, so I'm going to, for the next 6-8 weeks, be addressing the weak points of my lifting. I'm going to perform exercises that specifically work on lockouts and knee strength. Those were kind of where I was weak. Now, I can't think of a better exercise, well, I should say one of the best exercises you could do with just a barbell is the hip thrust. A lot of people dismiss this lift in the powerlifting community because it looks weird. You know, you're going to get a lot of weird looks at the gym. They say it's a girl lift, whatever. I mean, if you load the bar up and you perform these right, it is a really awesome way to just target your posterior chain directly. And that directly translates to your deadlift. This is an awesome exercise. And if you're a minimalist trainer like me, and all you have is a barbell and some plates, you should definitely be doing these. These will definitely work for you. Now, I normally perform this lift with a barbell, but I forgot I had that little easy curl bar, so I thought I would try loading that up just to see if it was any more comfortable. And with the little grooves that it has for where you put your hands, I found that they fit around my thighs really nicely. So if you have one of these, you can try it with that, and I think it might be a little bit more comfortable for you. As far as technique is concerned, I'm pushing off the floor through my heels, so off my heels, and I'm focusing not so much on pushing up with my lower back as I am with my posterior chain, which is my glutes and my hamstrings, and I'm contracting those muscles at the top of the lift, so I'm actually holding it for a second. I found with this lift, I don't really get a lot out of it unless I really load the bar up, so typically I'm going to do these for sets of 6 to 8 in the 400, 425 pound range. I'll do this accessory with the same frequency that I do barbell rows or any other deadlift variants. It's not something I'm going to do every back day, but it is something that I incorporate regularly, and I would consider it a primary compound movement, just like the deadlift. With the weight that I'm using, I use the same lines of progression, and it takes about the same recovery time before I can go heavy again. And for all my female lifters that are trying to go for that bubble butt look, they do the squats and lunges, I think this might be a go-to exercise for you, because this just targets that specifically. Directly, you go hard, you go heavy, it's a great lift. Next on the menu are rack pulls, but I'm doing them in a specific way. So what I want to do is work on glutes, hamstrings, and lockout. So I'm going to stand a little over the bar, and I'm almost using the rack like a Smith machine. I'm letting the bar ride up the slides on it, and I'm focused on pulling with kind of stiff legs, and I'm holding it at the top at the lockout, and I'm just kind of contracting. Again, I'm contracting the glutes and the hamstrings, and just kind of squeezing everything at the top and just holding it for a second. So when I stand with my feet together, almost like I'm standing at attention, and I turn my feet about 30 degrees outward, here I'll show you. You'll notice that when you stand up, turn your feet out and feel what your glutes are doing. It causes your glute muscles to contract. So you're just getting a little more activation out of your glutes specifically when you turn your feet out like that, when you're standing close together. So that helps me target that specifically while I'm performing this lift. Well, the whole point of using the rack is so I can do this with a slow, controlled motion where I can focus on contracting at the top of the lift. And I set it down in a nice, slow and controlled fashion. You want to be careful when you set it down too, because you start getting 400 or 500 pounds on the bar and you slam it into the pins, you could bend your bar. Something to consider. Now I want to give the knees some love. Guys, I know these exercises look goofy, but I'm here to tell you, over the age of 45, I started having to do this stuff. And there's a reason why, as old as I am, I'm still competing and I'm relatively injury-free. It's because I do stupid stuff like this. It might look silly, but this little exercise that I'm doing where I'm standing up on an elevated platform and I'm doing squats where I'm putting all my weight from a center of gravity over my knees, I'm touching the heel of the ground and I'm making sure to shift my weight forward. It's not a huge range of motion, but this is an awesome knee exercise that'll help keep your joints healthy. This is specifically to address the tendinitis that I get from time to time. I found when I started incorporating these into my routine regularly, my joint pain went away and I just felt like my knees were way more healthier than before I started doing them. I'm using these little oil change ramps because of the angle that's on them. I get a good stretch out of the angle, but you can do these off of just like a box, or you can stack a couple of weight plates up and stand on those. Just some sort of an elevated platform. But the key to this specific exercise is to make sure you're shifting your weight forward, putting your knees over your toes, and you're touching your heel to the ground. There's two ways to progress while doing this movement. One of them is to increase the range of motion by standing on a higher platform, and the second is to add some weight or some resistance to the movement. Usually I'll do both of those in tandem. I'll add a little bit of weight, and then once I get strong at the range of motion that I'm working at, I'll increase the range of motion, and I'll usually do those, first I'll add weight, then I'll increase range of motion, and then I'll add weight, and then I'll increase range of motion, and same kind of linear progression that you would do with any other exercise. You're looking at it, you're looking at the video, and you're going, yeah, okay. Try it. Stand on something. Just do a set of 5 to 10. That brings us to rep range. What reps do I usually work with before I progress, either add weight or range of motion? Usually I'll start with sets of 10 and I'll work until they get up to 15 or 20, and then I'll either add weight or I'll increase the distance. Now, I just started adding these to my routine, and it was at the recommendation of the physical therapist. So now the idea here is I'm using my body weight. As you can see, as I'm leaning backwards, I'm only able to go back a few inches. What I was told to do with these is you want to increase the distance that you're able to lean back over time. So with each set, he said, try to just go back a little bit more each time until, you want to work into it. You want to do these slowly. As silly as this looks, these are actually really difficult. But since I started incorporating these little exercises to the end of my leg day and back day, my knee pain has virtually disappeared, and I've gotten a lot stronger with athletic movement. Now, last but not least, this is a variation of the Jefferson curl. So I'm performing these pretty much the same way I do stiff leg deadlifts, except for I'm increasing the range of motion and I'm really stretching the hamstrings out while I do these. I don't necessarily go that heavy on these, but I really focus on the stretch, and I do a pretty high rep range, sometimes as much as 20 to 30 reps. I think it was Mark Bell who said strengthening, he said lengthening is strengthening. So, being able to increase your range of motion directly correlates to getting stronger is how I interpret that. And at my age, I have to do this stuff. I know it looks silly, and I'm only presenting it to you because a lot of guys, they focus on the heavy lifting and they don't really take any time to do any of the rehab work. And there's a reason why I'm going to be 47 in 2 weeks, and I could still go almost as hard as I could when I was in my 30s. And a lot of it is just taking 15 minutes at the end of your routine to do these small movements. You don't have to spend all day on them. What do I do? 3-4 sets of each. reps a little bit on the high side, but you don't have to, your rest is minimal. You only have to wait 30 seconds in between sets because you have hardly any weight on them. And it just helps keep the joints moving the way they're supposed to. It strengthens your tendons and ligaments, and it helps prevent injuries, which is the most important thing. As if the second I hit the record button, I got a helicopter flying over me, the air conditioning unit's kicked off, the wind is howling, I got a fire truck, 747 it looks like. Jesus.